All right, Joey, killer intro as always. Cass, I feel like we're on, I think, episode number 5 right now. We're on a roll. Let's just get done so we can watch Toy Story 3 and cry.
Like children, because it will get me every time.
Yes. We're going to go watch, I can't even almost say it, Buzz and Woody just go through their last adventure.
When they slowly slide into the fire pit and you just know that you're an adult now. That's how I knew.
Yeah,
that's how I knew.
Yeah, that was kind of just like a...
It timed up perfectly with my childhood because I saw the first one when I was like the age of Andy. The second one...
Same, yeah.
Yeah, and the third one I was going off to college that year.
That was society just telling you, hey, leave the nest. We're pushing you with this movie.
And
Get
that's
out.
Also, that movie sends mixed messages because it tells you that your stuff... Yes, that's true too. But it tells you that every one of your objects is alive. You need to treat them well, and they're not. They're all plastic crap.
No, I feel like that message might have influenced all of us when we were like 6 or 7 when we were watching that movie, and we were just like...
That's why we're a weird nostalgia, like, click generation.
You blame a lot of it on Toy Story?
I blame a lot. Toy Story and My Little Brave Little Toaster. Like, your toaster needs to be thrown away if it doesn't work. I'm sorry, but that vacuum and toaster and radio and I think a blanket monster... Like, I don't know what the other thing was, but they all need to just go in the trash.
No, I agree. Well,
anyway, that's my nihilism for the day. Go ahead, Chandler.
Well, again, welcome to Political Bedlam, the podcast where we just trash your nostalgia. Get it out of here. Just throwing your toys in the trash today.
Kill your darlings.
Kill your darlings. Well, we got a lot to talk about. Oh, we heard something outside. Who knows? Got a producer looking out the window. Okay.
False alarm.
Got a guest coming, running for Oklahoma House District 81.
Represent 81.
Melanie F. Dry. She has Melanie F. Dry on her profile. I don't know which one she wants. We'll ask her when she gets here.
No, we have so many questions for her.
That's, I'm sure, the most pressing one.
Yes.
Do we use your middle initial or not? Well, I mean, we could talk about some of the other craziness that has happened this week.
And it's all craziness.
Yeah, a big one happened today. A lot of people will now know just by tuning into the news that Trump has canceled the North Korean summit in June. It's going to take place in Singapore with Kim Jong-un.
It's a shame, I think. Let's get some context from someone who might know better.
Yes. Last week we had Mimbo on the podcast, and I just kind of asked him about it, and because he just knows a lot more about it than either one of us do. And he obviously expressed his disappointment this morning on Facebook. But when I asked him to kind of make a further statement, he just wanted to kind of clarify where he thought things were going to go, where he thinks things might go. And he kind of broke it down between two cases. Case number one is kind of what we talk about, that Trump knows what he's doing. He's using his negotiating skill as a businessman to basically show that he'll walk away since he's an experienced businessman, or he's kind of a troll.
You keep saying that word businessman. I'm not sure you know what it means, but continue.
I mean, yeah, this is Mimbo's, I guess, first case, and it's kind of the case in a lot of American politics, is if Trump really knows what he's doing, he's trying to get Kim to leave the table. But Mimbo has out here that case number 2 is Trump is kind of just tired of North Korea fooling everyone like they always do. He's not believing the denuclearization thing, or maybe he's listening to older White House officials that are saying, no, it's not going to happen. So between both of those cases, I mean, he makes it sound like in his analysis that China's involvement is going to play a heavy factor in whatever happens. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't think that was ever in question. I think that China's the more stable actor in this situation because North Korea is not stable, and it's weird to say this, but the United States' position is not stable because our commander-in-chief has the fuse of a toddler, and his decisions are based on the last person who spoke to him. I don't think he's making any conscious choices. I don't think any of this is his grand design. I don't think he's playing 3D or third-dimensional
reacting
chess.
to events, basically.
He's reacting to events, and I think that is part of what got us to where we were, getting us to the table. I think North Korea saw Trump as an opportunity. Because and this is my weird pet theory. If your friend was back here, I should have ran it past him last time. But that things in North Korea are so bad that Kim Jong-un is looking for any sort of opportunity to branch out and get recognition, which has always been the goal of any North Korean leader. But I think in the time of Trump, he saw an opportunity that presented itself in a way that it hasn't before. You know...
Do you think it was Trump specifically? I mean, he came into power when Obama was in office, when his father died. I mean, he hasn't lived through as many presidents as either his father or his grandfather. Do you think it was Trump specifically that he saw as an opportunity, or do you think he's really just trying to test himself?
The one consistent thing about Trump is if Obama did it, I'm going to do the opposite.
That's fair to say.
That's, the one consistent thing you can say about Trump. And I think that was part of this. I think it's a weird... If you read the letter that Trump sent to Kim, it's very... Everyone should pause right now and go read it because it is vastly fascinating.
Let's pause and get it in front of us ourselves.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and you might hit pause. J-Slide, checking the news.
After the bromance you had with the libertarian on here, I feel a little sad.
I was very uncomfortable with that as well. Let's get that going.
I honestly, and then he starts licking the mic halfway through, and he's like, "Dude, you're running for libertarian. That's so amazing. Oh my god!" And I thought, is he seriously like? Pandering to this dude.
That licking the mic thing started out as a joke, and it got somehow cut in there. We might have to get rid of that before distribution. But this is our guest. Is it Melanie Dry or Melanie F Dry? What are we calling you?
Okay, so
famous middle initial.
In my starter marriage, it was Dry, and so
I'm so sorry. We're on the record right now. She is my 4th grade teacher, and I called her Mrs. Dry, and I'm going to be used to calling her that. She is now Melanie F Spoon.
That's correct.
Melanie Spoon or Melanie F Spoon? I should have clarified.
My middle name starts with an F, so I made my political page Melanie F Spoon, and Spoon is my maiden name. It's my father's name.
Okay.
And I decided that I would always keep my father's name from here on out because it's easier that way. Because I know you guys are dudes, but I'm telling you, changing your name stinks. It's awful.
Sure.
It took me 2 years just to get my name back to what it was. So
it's a nightmare.
That's going to be hard for me to break.
Dry.
I'll be able to do it. Yes.
Hey, Miss Dry.
Yeah, I saw her every day for like almost 365 days.
And then all of his sisters had me in class too. So
well, would you be comfortable calling her by her first name at this
Melanie,
point?
you can call me Melanie.
Yeah, I know that was crazy too. I was talking about coming in. I was like, I remember call her by her first name. She's my 4th grade teacher.
I've met teachers that I've had, and calling them by their first name
it's
weird. Uncomfortable, but it
Yeah.
also is like this nice little I'm rebelling, but it's not because
no.
you're both adults now.
Well,
You can call me Melanie. You can call me Melanie. Yeah.
That just sounds so weird.
It's fine. Call me Melanie because it's funny because I was ranting about the Thunder. I was irritated, and your mom's like, I can have your favorite 4th grade student take you to a Thunder game. And I was like, Chandler? And I was like, I'm teasing.
Yes,
His mom, I was on a rant because I've been on rant. I feel like I've been on a rant for 20 years about the poor funding in education. And it makes people mad and puts me in Twitter jail when I gripe about them subsidizing the Thunder. I'm like, why are we subsidizing the Thunder whenever I don't have a pay raise? I'm like, these people are making millions and billions of dollars, and we're subsidizing these people? State of Oklahoma? I mean, it's public record. And so that got me in trouble of course, I'm always in trouble.
Yeah, no, I get that.
As a good teacher should be.
That I'm always in Facebook or Twitter jail, like all the time.
Yeah, but you poke the bear.
Well, I mean, apparently I learned it from somewhere.
A passionate decry for justice.
Hey, what we do is just as important. Me trolling is just as important as her.
I'm going to go on the record and say it's not as important as what she does.
Subjective.
Why don't you, before we get started, give us a little bit of your history? Where do you teach? What do you teach? How long have you been teaching? Just general, throw it out there.
Okay, so the fun part. Goodness. I did my student teaching at Cross Timbers Elementary School in Edmond, and I graduated from UCO in 1998.
Go Broncos.
I call them the Bronchos.
Go Bronchos, yep.
But I was 21 when I graduated from college and started teaching when I was 22. And I started at Cross Timbers, and then I went to Epperly Heights Elementary in Del City and taught 5th grade. And that was an inner city school, and I grew up on a farm in the country, so being in an inner city school was scary. But I fell in love with those kids and those parents, and then I discovered there was a job back in Edmond at Orvis Reisner Elementary School, and I finished up bus duty and smelled like crazy woman, and sat down in front of my principal and Dr. Pierce now, and I said, I know I'm just 23 years old, but I think I could do a really great job. So I interviewed with him, then interviewed with a team of like 12 teachers at Orvis, and got hired. And I taught 5th grade, I think, for 2 years before I moved down to 4th grade. And my first year in 4th grade, I moved down. I think I had you in my class. But, I grew up in Tonkawa from a small town. I wasn't aware of the star power that was in my classroom that year. And I was like, who are these people? I didn't have a clue because everyone's like, oh my gosh, you have these. And I'm like, I have no idea who these kids are. And I don't really care who they are. They're going to behave and they're going to learn, period. And so that's kind of always been my approach with any kid, rich or poor, whatever. Kids are kids. They're my class. They're here to learn. And so as difficult as it was with some very difficult children, I just would... I think I'd pull them out in the hall and say, why are you giving me such a hard time? We're here to learn, and that's all we're here to do. So I moved from Edmond to Putnam City after I got my master's in library science, and I've been in Putnam City ever since at James L. Capps Middle School in Putnam City. And so I've been a library media specialist for the middle school there for 10 years. I just celebrated my 10th year in Putnam City. And so I just...
Congratulations.
Well, thank you. 20 years in teaching. I've been teaching for 20 years. So I'm just now 42. So if that tells you anything.
That is some fortitude in this state.
It is. And
Thanks for sticking it out.
It has. And I mean, as far as being an advocate for kids and teaching, my paycheck has stayed the same. When I went from Edmond to Putnam City, my paycheck just stayed the same. And the only money I ever made any different was coaching cheerleading, which is ironic because that's just, for me, coaching cheerleading is kind of a joke because we used to make fun of cheerleaders in high school with softball players. We're like, oh my gosh, And, but anyway, I think I decided this year, I've always been interested in politics. I fell in love with Ronald Reagan as a kid because I'm old enough to remember, voting as a kid for Ronald Reagan. And then when I then I remember watching Ronald Reagan speak, and then when Barbara Bush got up to speak, I thought she was just awesome. I was like, who is this woman up there causing trouble? Because she got in trouble at the Republican National Committee. She got up and spoke about something, and the media just erupted like, oh my God, I can't believe Barbara Bush would say something like that. And I'm like, I like this woman. She is feisty. I love her. And so that's where I started really thinking myself more of a conservative. And I've always kind of followed those conservative followings, I guess you could say. But and now I'm running for office in District 81 in Edmond. So I'm trying to get as many voters as I can, but I don't have any money. And so I think it did too. It lit a fire because I thought to myself, I'm getting tired of not being heard. I'm getting tired of being ignored. The press doesn't want to hear what I have to say. The politicians don't want to hear what I have to say. And parents empathize with us, but they don't know what to do. They're like, well, what are we supposed to do? How do we get more money into your pockets? Because I think they felt helpless. And I didn't have any answers for them either until I started digging around and I realized, holy crap, they have not, it's been, 28 years since we've actually had any kind of real education reform and funding, and they've cut us way back. The GPT they were talking about, it's this huge word now, it's this huge buzzword, and when I look, we were at 7%, and then they dropped us all the way down to the 2%. And then they passed that 640 was the bill that says that any law has to have 75% of the vote to pass. And so, or a tax raise has to have 75% of the vote to raise or to pass. And so, yeah, I've just thought, man, no wonder my paycheck hasn't moved in 10 years. But I think what's happened is public school teachers, here's what we do. We go in our classrooms and we work and we teach kids and we do curriculum and we bust our tails doing what's best for children. And we have been trusting that the people that we've elected to be in office had our back. And then all of a sudden we just kind of woke up. And I don't know if it was because of a national movement in other states like Kentucky, but it's like we woke up and we're like, holy crap, we've been disenfranchised. We haven't had a pay raise. We haven't been heard in all these years too. And I know the legislature really tried to do something for us, but I just wasn't enough. And so that's the strike was like, we just kind of threw the gauntlet down, boom. And I think there's 300 candidates. Have you done the research?
We have. I don't have that number on hand, but it is a record-setting number.
Yeah,
especially for Oklahoma. It's for lack of a better word, a revolution.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, something's coming.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's about time. I think even if I told myself, I said, even if I don't win this race, that's fine because at least I made him sweat and I made him earn it. And I hope that, and then we've got a libertarian that's running, and that's great. And Democrat, I've met the Democratic Jackie.
You met Jackie?
She's fantastic. I think she's great.
Jeff was actually telling me he's very impressed with Jackie as well.
She's great. I think she's wonderful, and we're friends. We've been texting quite a bit, and we're very supportive of each other. And we've actually made, because it's not about politics anymore. I mean, Jackie
Something
and I,
needs to get done.
Not
Yeah.
right now, not for
it's
this
not.
issue.
And I
Absolutely.
just said, and Jackie and I have actually been making jokes. I said, Jackie, if I lose my primary, I'm going to put on your shirt and knock doors for you because I want change. And I told her that, and she said the same thing for me. And Jackie, we were joking. I said, hey, Jackie, I said, if we should be each other's legislative assistants if either one of us wins, because we're so into this race and both of us have so many people behind us. And so she's like, sure, that'd be awesome. I mean, I would totally work for a Democrat because I want to be there because I want to be that voice. And what kills me is that these groups that support these incumbents, they're saying, oh, well, our incumbent, he's great. He really supports education. Okay, that's great. What they were doing down at the Capitol is that they were protecting themselves and keeping themselves from having to get their hands dirty. They voted yes on some of those education bills, but they weren't voting yes on ways to fund it. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
They weren't saying yes, so they were flying under the radar so they could go back to their constituents and say, well, I voted for a raise for teachers. Yes, but did you vote to hear the gross? Did you vote? Scott Inman's, he was trying to get it heard on the floor. Did you vote yes for that? Did you vote for revenues to be heard? No, you didn't. And for the past 2 years, some of our legislators have been flying under the radar. They haven't made any waves. And I said, here's the test of a pro-education. I'm not just pro-education. I am education. And if I think that I can or can't get money for myself or my students or anybody, their public school children or public school teachers, I'm going to be like standing on the desk in the legislative house, screaming and banging that microphone going, wake up, people. What is wrong with you? If you're pro-education, you better step up and grow a pair. Because I get tired. One thing I discovered is that some of the Republicans were controlling because I actually spoke to some of them, and they said, well, we kind of vote the way that we're told. And
Wow.
so the Democrats and Republicans made this huge deal. And so the Republicans just kind of sat there. And if you go back and look at the votes, they voted straight down party lines to vote for the GPT to be heard. And my point is the GPT, the Republicans don't like me very much either because they're like, well, we don't want to raise taxes. And I said, listen to me. We were at 7%. You cut all the way down. It's not raising taxes. It's a restoration to what it was in the first place. That's just common sense. And so, I listened to you talking to your libertarian because libertarians are very no government, no taxes, and I can kind of respect that because I grew up out in the country. I mean,
He was kind of an interesting libertarian.
he seems like he's more middle of the road libertarian.
Yeah.
And I think I kind of respect that. But, I mean, I'm kind of that way myself. I said, I'm really sick of politics and it started after George Bush left, when Obama took office. That's when we started to really we started really hyping up the rhetoric on both sides. Mm-hmm. That's when it really, really started. And then Trump comes in office and it ramps up again on each side and people become polarized in their parties. And that is terrible. It's terrible for local government. It's terrible for federal government. And I, for one, am sick of it because all it does is hurt me. And I think to myself, when I was a single mom for a while, I had to go to the food bank to get food for my kids because I didn't have any money. I had nothing. And I couldn't afford childcare, and I didn't qualify for food stamps because DHS told me I was considered the working poor. So,
Wow.
you're hard whenever you're hard up whenever you're using credit cards to get gas to go to work. And so, but it didn't really sink into me that it was that bad until I started thinking to myself, I started really looking at my paychecks, and I really got in trouble because I actually posted my paycheck. I don't know if you were friends with me on Facebook
that.
yet.
Yeah, I think that's when I added you. You
Oh my
went
God.
viral, I thought.
I lit people up. And what happened was I posted my paycheck online and said, this is my paycheck from when I left Edmond schools, and this is my paycheck now. And this is a problem. And people lost their mind. I mean, absolutely lost their mind. They were like, how dare you? You know what you signed up for, and how dare you try to make us feel bad about not funding you? This is your choice, and you get in there and teach those kids. because that's what you're best at. And you shouldn't whine so much about not having any money and blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I just kind of threw an emotional grenade out there.
There's a lot that you've said that you can't see because it's a podcast that has made my eye twitch. But the fact that you shared your paycheck is, I dig that. I dig that hardcore.
Boss.
Yeah. So one thing you touched on earlier was talking about how it was for a pay raise, but also this is not just money for you. This is money for the classroom.
Right.
And I think a lot of people have a misconception
They do.
that teachers are fighting for more money for themselves, which I think is perfectly admirable considering how little they get paid. But could you elaborate on what your classrooms are lacking?
The classrooms are lacking, yes. And I'm glad you pointed that out because I kind of got lost on a tangent there because I was just trying to.
We do tangents here. We do.
I know. I was ready for a fight too. I was like, I better bring food for the guys because I don't.
There are two lovely looking cupcakes here that
only a teacher could make.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
know.
Exactly.
So I thought I better bring food for these guys. I'm like, oh no, because I don't know if I can handle a political fight right now because I've been in political fights forever. But our classrooms, I will say, for me especially, whenever I taught at Orvis Reisner, I mean, I can't say that Edmond did without, but Edmond did have a lot of problems as far as their buildings were concerned, because I don't know if I had your class or not, but one year when I was teaching at Orvis Reisner, the sewage flooded back in my classroom. I was in an older classroom that didn't actually have chalkboard. It had like these old nasty chalkboards. So I had to go to Lowe's and buy myself shower wall and make myself my very own dry erase boards. And then as soon as I did that, there was a sewage port in the bottom of my classroom floor, and it backed up into my classroom. And the PTA dads, I think your dad was one of them, who actually came in and cleaned out the floor, scraped up the carpet, and like bleached it for me, so I could actually pull my desks and chairs back in there and actually have class. But you
had to rely on parents of your students,
right, to come help me
to have a working, functional classroom.
Yeah, and I think it was the PTA, it was the dad's organization.
My dad didn't tell me about this.
It was
That's crazy.
It may have been your dad or the year before after, but they had like the watchdog T-shirts, and they'd walk around the school. I don't know if you remember this or not, but they
vaguely remember.
They would
like that.
They had security around our school, so they would walk around our school and. But currently, when I go to my teachers' classrooms, like as somebody who's a media specialist now, I'll bring it to just fast forward to present. When I walk around my school in particular, the teachers have been using the same textbooks for a very long time. They don't have enough textbooks. And now we've gone to the one-to-one program where it matches one child to an iPad, so they have one iPad per kid. But to me, that's a good plan. It's a good idea to go digital, but we still have kids who don't have technology at home or internet at home. So if they have the one-to-one at school with their textbooks on their iPads at school, they still don't have textbooks to take home and do their work if they need to. And so in some of our classrooms, like for me especially, like the desk that I had in my office that I was using, it was held together with duct tape and baling wire, and I had just kind of hot glued it together for a couple of years. So finally, I actually had to save enough money of my own to buy myself a proper desk to work at. And so I bought my own desk, and my mom bought me a chair because the chair that I had was falling apart. And
just to be clear, you're not buying yourself. Like they gave you a chair and you wanted a nicer chair. Your chair was unfunctional, and
it was.
She had to provide you with a working chair.
Just a working chair.
It's disgusting.
And so basic, and it is true. I mean, it is not hyperbole what teachers are saying online about buying their own stuff or making their own stuff or using donors choose to get things, because it is part of what we do as teachers. We do have to provide a safe and clean and kind of cute environment for our kids to be in. And, there's just certain things that aren't provided for us. And so, I mean, I look around the schools. I mean, I wrote several pieces about it on my page about what it's like to be a teacher. Like a senator actually kind of came after me on Facebook, and I very politely responded to her and said, I live this every day. I walk this every day. The schools are just crumbling. Like the 8th grade teacher upstairs, her whole entire ceiling fell in. We had a huge rain, and she came back after the rain, and her whole ceiling with those ceiling tiles had collapsed into her classroom.
Wow.
And it took them almost 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, to get it cleaned up and refurbished. And at that time, it had destroyed all of her stuff, her desk, her personal chair, all of her things had gotten destroyed. And so I don't know if it's because the building is old, the roof wasn't tarred properly. I can't really tell you why it fell apart like it did, but it's just not a very good environment. And they're building some of the newer schools. I mean, some of the new schools are great, but they're building all the new schools with bond money. So you walk into all these beautiful schools, and if you walk into a beautiful school, the classrooms are still underfunded. So who do you think makes those classrooms beautiful? If they're not getting money from the district or the state to pay for it, we are. And so we're
That
self-funding.
shouldn't even be a thing.
So we're self-funding, basically. And they've cut us back. So when I first started as a librarian, I get like $9 per child. And over the past 10 years, they've cut my funding down. I only have a part-time assistant now who helps me, and we share schools. I did start out with maybe $7,000 in library money. Now I only have like $2,500 in library money. So now I have 1,000 students and $2,500 to buy books for those kids to read. So my books in my library are like my little children. And I tell my students, I'm like, now remember what mom said about these books. They're precious. Please don't barf on them or let your dog eat them. And so because I can't replace them very well. And so that's kind of where the status is. So, I mean, I certainly don't have to reiterate everything that's been all over social media about the deplorable conditions for teachers and the things that they've had to deal with, because it's absolutely true. It's kind of like the dirty little secret of education, don't talk like Fight Club. Don't talk about Fight Club. We don't talk about Fight Club.
About funding, yeah.
Don't talk about funding.
Where are we at in education funding? I think we're like 48th or something.
Yeah, we're 48th. Easy. And it just depends on which, and that's something too, is it depends on which one you look at. I mean, I, for one, look at 3 or 4 sources before I make a decision, but some sources are 50, some are 49, some are 48.
Well, those aren't 3 good numbers to be hovering between.
No, but we're almost, first in incarceration for women.
No, we got that going for us. So
yeah, we're
yay.
we're in the top 5 at least for teen pregnancy.
So there could be a new Orange is the New Black series here. We got something, but nothing good.
For sure. But no, I felt like for years this has been a problem, and we've been trying really hard to say something about it, but we just haven't been heard. And I think the walkout was a huge voice that said. And the legislators, I met with Jason Dunnington and Leslie Osborne last night. And Jason, I love Jason Dunnington. He's awesome, Democrat. And I watch him every Sunday morning on News 9. He has the political minute that he has, and sometimes he has John Eccles on there or Leslie Osborne. And they both talked about bipartisan issues, and they both said that there's a lot of the tax increases or the House Bill 10XX. Those things probably would not have passed if we had not shown up. They said if teachers had not shown up in force and stayed, a lot of those things would not have passed.
And for people listening, how long did you all stay at the Capitol?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that. People were telling me. It was the people who lived down in that area. They're just like, yeah, they've been there for a while. And they were probably, I think, in between like 5,000 and 10,000 protesters every day, or was it more than that? I don't know what I heard.
Well, there was 30 to 50,000 teachers a day.
Oh, okay. Well, I was
30
way
to
off.
50,000.
That's a lot.
You were giving me a hard time too. It was really funny. I was like, Chandler, don't give me a hard time about this.
What was I giving you a hard time about?
You're like, I'm gonna walk across those picket lines and take your jobs. I'm like,
oh yeah. I made a Facebook post about how
Whatever.
like scab for teachers can make serious money right now.
No, don't be a scab.
Don't
ever be a scab.
We got a comment here telling you not to be a scab.
I don't know.
It was a funny joke. I thought it was funny.
Well, what's worse, a scab or a scrub? I mean, come on. I don't want no scrubs.
Don't know one of those scrubs. That's fair.
I teach in middle school, bro. Come at me. I got it all day. Dude, there's nothing like doing lunch duty with 8th grade boys. I'm telling you right now.
I'm sure that's intense.
It's almost like Animal House. It's gross. It's good for staying in shape, though, because you don't feel like eating after you watch 8th grade boys eat lunch.
I'm sure. I can remember 8th grade.
So I'm sorry if I'm making your eye twitch. I don't know if I'm saying anything.
I
feel like you gave Cass a lot.
Flashbacks to 8th grade, and you're right. No, it was Lord of the Flies in there. Like it wasn't pleasant at all. But let's not remember the past. Let's look toward the future.
Let's try. Let's try.
So other than increasing the GPT to its former levels, what are some other funding initiatives that you would support?
I would definitely. I just read about this. I've been doing a lot of research on it, and although I mean, as a Republican, the Republican platform is no new taxes. They're not really a fan of raising taxes.
That works really well. So
it doesn't.
That's Cass talking right now. So anyway, go ahead.
Yes, it is.
No, but I feel like we're at a point to where a Republican candidate, a Democratic candidate, and a Libertarian candidate have all come in and say the same thing.
Yeah.
To where like, I mean, if those are what the mainstream Republicans are saying, but all of the new blood from all three different parties are saying, hey, we need to raise them, it's got to be time to get the old people out. Because, I mean, if all three people are saying that, I don't know. To me, just the fact that Jeff was talking about Jackie earlier, then you revealed that you were close with Jackie already.
Yeah,
I mean,
cool.
we're together as a people on this issue. So I think the Republicans, if they're really holding out on we're not going to do any new taxes, they're going to lose. They're obviously going to lose by all the new incumbents saying that exact same line.
If we can get in office.
Yeah, how many incumbents do you think, or how many new arrivals do you think are going to win?
I don't. That's a really good question. Gosh, I hopefully. I mean, idealistically, I'm hoping that all the teachers that are running for office win, regardless of party at this point.
I agree. No, my dad and I have a saying. He's a Republican. I'm a Democrat, and we both say in Oklahoma, you vote for the person who's not already in office.
Right.
So I think that's a good rule of thumb for most candidates. Of course, there are exceptions, but properly taken care of at home, that means that your workload is increased exponentially.
Well, in shelters, we have kids who live in shelters.
Right.
And so this is where my mental health issue, Oklahomans are concerned about mental health. I will just say briefly, teachers are the first line of defense. We are the strainer for all of the things that sift through our schools. And if we have funding, if we fund our schools and fund our classrooms and hire people that are in there, I mean, we have school psychometrists and psychologists in our schools that test children for mental health and special needs, but they're understaffed. There's not enough of them. We can't identify them. There's too many. They fall through the cracks. We have counselors in our buildings that are licensed practical counselors, and we've got teachers who genuinely care about these kids. And if we see someone who walks through my doors and they are struggling with a mental health issue or a special need of some sort, we are Johnny on the spot. They need help. Assess this child, get them some help, get them counseling, get them services. You know, they're in foster care. They've been abused. How do we help them? Let's call the YWCA. We are the first line of defense. We are those people. And I think if we could get some funding and people and support staff in our building, a lot of them, we could definitely make a positive impact on the serious mental health issues, because there's a direct correlation. I have 10 pages of research alone that shows the correlation between mental health, poor education, and violence. I mean, you cannot, it all goes hand in hand. And somehow people have just either forgotten that, or they've got too wrapped up in a political bubble, or they're a part of groupthink and they can't think past for themselves. If you give teachers, the funding and the education is in there, and those kids come to school, they walk through our doors, we see them, we identify them, we're there to help and get them the proper services they need. I do it every single day. In fact, when those buses left the school today and I said goodbye to my kids, I broke down and cried, because my first thing in my brain was not, oh my God, I'm so glad school's over. My first thing was like, oh my God, what is going to happen to her when she leaves? What's going to happen? I don't know, because I know I've fed her, I've clothed her, I've protected her, I've demanded that she get testing and have services because she needs help. But she's gone, and I don't know what's going to happen to her for the next 60 days. And so that is a burden on me. And that's me thinking, oh my God, I need to go find help for this child. I mean, whether she's in foster care or she's in a shelter because she's been abused. And I just don't think people on the outside world realize what we see and what we do every day. And I think if we were just given a chance, given the funding, given the staffing for our classrooms and our schools, I think a lot of the serious issues in our schools with mental health and with incarceration and violence and things, I think a lot of that would come back down. I believe it. And I don't think our current legislature, with doctors and lawyers and political people, I don't think they realize that. It's almost like I can't talk them into it. They just think I'm crazy woman up there saying, we need this for this, because I just see it and I live it every day. And there's sometimes I can't sleep at night because I think, is she safe? Where is she? Who's going to help her? Who's the director of the shelter that I can call? Or, can the police help? I mean, it's a worry. It goes through my brain. And I mean, I love having summer, but most of my summer is just spent praying for those kids and going back into those areas and letting them know that I'm there. But if I could just say one thing to those legislators to give funding, and everyone wants to argue and fight about taxes, and they want to argue and complain about money here or money there. But I believe that public education is a right. It is a God-given right. It is our constitutional right. It is our human right. And for us not to be taken care of, it has led to the denigration of our society. And it's just sad to watch. And I walk through the halls of my schools every day, and I just see it. And it breaks my heart. And after 20 years in this business, for someone who absolutely loves students, and it's my absolute passion, I wish I could get people to stop fighting about money and stop fighting about politics and realize you have to take care of what the needs are. And that is public schools, Department of Human Services, core services, because we are those people that are going to take care of that mental health issue. We are, from the beginning all the way through. Now, is it going to fall through the cracks? Are there going to be mistakes? Sure. We can't fix it all. We're not you know what I'm saying? We're not perfect. But by taking everything away from us, our funding, and not valuing us and treating us like we are important, it's just, and the answer is not going to be charter schools and vouchers. It's not going to be that. Not for my kids. My students can't vouch out. They can't, because they have to pay the other half of it. They can't afford that. What are you going to do with a kid who lives in a shelter? You're going to give him a voucher to do what? You think he's going to drive himself to school? He's not going to do it. He's going to come to a public school on a bus. And so I think that was maybe the message that legislators didn't want to hear. There were some who heard us, but the ones who kept shutting their doors in our face, I don't, either it's too sad for them to realize, or it's so bad they didn't realize.
That is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It's just heartbreaking.
And for those of us who grew up in a loving home with two parents, or even one parent who loved us, because I've seen some fantastic children come from single parent homes, and I was a single parent home for a while. It can be done. It's not easy, but it can be done. And they say teachers touch lives forever.
No, I think most of us can attest to that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. When I think of people who just influenced me, like adults in my life outside of my parents, it's a teacher. Every single one is a teacher.
Yeah.
They make long-lasting influences on our lives. They definitely need to be compensated, not just compensated better, but they need to have more resources to be able to better do their jobs. And it's kind of an atrocity. I'm sure you'd agree with that.
No, absolutely. No, I think that, that is paramount, especially in this state. And I think one of the most important factors that you touched on is that building up education, it's a fail-safe for so many other programs, mental health, incarceration. It touches so many different aspects. So,
well, I think for time's sake,
Hey, what time is it?
it is 8:41.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. I made you go longer with all my
I
stories.
can listen to you talk your story that we didn't catch on air, which we probably didn't want to record. It was very funny. I could listen to you talk for hours, even though it was just some of it's so heartbreaking. Melanie Spoon running for District 81, and we got to get Jackie in here. Get all three of them.
Oh, that'd be awesome. I love Jackie.
Well, thank you so much for coming in and shake it up. Go knock over some heads.
I will.
Let's get some incumbents out of office.
You didn't ask my favorite restaurants, though. I'm feeling a little.
Yeah, we should end with that.
I
we had an actual conversation, so you can edit that out. Jeff's a nice
you
guy.
did.
What are some of your favorite District 81 restaurants?
Oh my gosh. Have you all been to the Cow Cafe?
Love the Cow Cafe.
Oh my God.
The
Maui
burger
Cowie.
Yes,
is that your
that's
favorite?
What's at.
Totally
With
mine.
Sweet potatoes. Oh.
They're so delicious. They had
So
a dessert
good.
for a while, but on the
Big Cow Cafe guy. So
yeah.
I would actually like them even more than Three Cantinas to come in here and bring us some Cow
Are you
Cafe
kidding?
food.
I'm not a big burger guy, but I love the Cow Cafe.
Oh my
That
gosh,
is
how
where
can
it's
you
at.
not?
It's a hit. And
Oh,
they
yeah,
have
every
a
time.
breakfast too.
No,
They have a full breakfast.
I don't know
roast.
if I can handle their
Bro.
breakfast if it's half as decadent as their lunch.
We got to try it. We
Yeah.
got some Saturday
Dude,
morning.
Absolutely.
Wear your fat pants because you'll be like
Yeah.
waddling out of there. It's
sure
amazing.
will.
I was like, I got to get the Thanksgiving Day fat pants. That's the one I'm talking about. breakfast on Saturday morning.
What's the best kept secret in Edmond that's not a restaurant?
The best kept secret in Edmond that's not a restaurant? Oh my goodness, that's kind of a tough one. I'm going to have to say it's the, okay, right by my house, I live over by Smiling Hill, and there's this little walking part with all of the trees. You walk into these trees, and there's like a big park, and then it has a fishing pond right over there. It's right by Oklahoma Christian University. Have you been over there?
Yes, I have actually.
Okay,
I walk that path
too.
all the time.
Okay, my house has that huge sign out front that says Spoon for 81 on it.
Oh, dear.
That's my house.
That's fantastic. I've walked past that.
Yeah.
No, I have a friend, and we go running sometimes, and
That's
we
my
go
house.
down that path, and we've seen that. I'm 90% sure we've seen that sign.
That's my sign. And I had to write on it with Sharpie, authorized and paid for. Because here's the deal. I messed up. I made my signs before I went to my ethics commission training. I had no idea.
Oh, no.
And so I didn't know. I swear to God, it's the truth. And so I was like, oh no, I'm supposed to have all this authorized and paid for on my signs. Bro, I made a huge mistake. So I went out there with a Sharpie and wrote it on there so I'd be ethically compliant. And then I printed off my cards, my walk cards. This is even worse. I told on myself though, because I'm honest. I don't lie. I'm annoying, but I don't lie. So it's very true. So I printed off all of my walk cards that said vote for me, and it had all my stuff on it, blah, blah, blah. And it cut off, and I'm printing my stuff at Walgreens because I'm poor. So I printed off like 300 cards at Walgreens for like $10, and it cut off the authorized and paid for at the bottom. I didn't realize it. Until someone called me and said, you do realize it doesn't say authorized and paid for by Melanie Spoon, and that's an ethics violation. I went, oh crap. Oh no. I made a mistake. And so I came out on Facebook and said, if you look at my Facebook, I straight up told on myself and said, it cut it off. It was a mistake. I owned it. I emailed it to the ethics commissions, and I reported myself to the ethics commission that I made a mistake, because I did. So now I printed labels at home, because teachers have gallons and gallons of labels, and it said authorized and paid for, and I put it on the back of my cards now because I realized I went to the ethics commission training. But yeah, someone called me out and said, you violated ethics and you're in trouble. I'm like, well, I probably am, but I went and told them myself because I made a mistake, because I would rather the truth be out there that I goofed than someone trying to dig out some nefarious weirdness and there's really none to be found. I mean, what, meat and a double cheeseburger at Cal Cafe? I mean, how nefarious do you want to get? So you can friend me on Facebook and see I reported myself, and I'll always report myself. And I thought, if I'm a legislator and I make a boo-boo, I would probably be the first person to go on camera and say, hey, yo, that was me who did that. I totally messed that up. It was a mistake. I need to fix it. Sorry about that. Let's do it again.
Oh, we need more of that.
It'd be so much easier if our campaigns were publicly financed, but I'm getting eyeballs here.
What is that? Publicly financed?
Yeah,
It's some commie nonsense.
It's not
I'm sure.
commie. It's
Are you
not
being
commie.
stupid over there?
He's not being
No.
stupid. He's just really far left, which
I
is
am
sometimes
being
it's hard to
cheeky.
tell.
No, it's all. You don't raise your own money. You get a certain amount of money from.
Canada does it, right? There are quite a few
Most
countries
countries
do it. Yeah.
But
Oh God, please not Venezuela.
well,
I don't think they actually have elections.
they don't. They don't have food, so you know.
Socialist wasn't that socialism that works? Isn't that what Ben Shapiro said?
I
think
probably.
I'm being cheeky here. I'm being
We can
jokes.
be cheeky, and cheeky's okay.
So, but yeah, I don't want to say anything going to get me in trouble again. But yeah, I think that walking park is really awesome.
Oh yeah, no, Edmond has some great walking
And
paths.
it's right over
so-
there. And I like the fact that Oklahoma Christian University has all those light up things that protect the area, and they've got blue call buttons where
And you can
call
press
the
those.
police.
Those are great. They're on most college campuses, and they're a godsend. They've saved a lot of people's lives.
I think so too. I think
Yeah.
it's super amazing because they have that like little tree area right there by Smiling Hill and Boulevard. It's a little sketch.
It's a little sketch.
A little
yeah,
sketch.
just by nature of being a forest you can walk into.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, Egg Roll Express is the best Chinese food in Edmond, hands down, period.
I've heard so many people say that. I've never been.
I'm a Blue Moon fan myself, but Egg Roll Express is very good.
Egg Roll Express, it's a bomb. The family's great. They're amazing. And I think the family has been there for a really long time.
Well, that's
I think they may have went to Orvis. I don't know, but Egg Roll Express, oh my God, that place. It's amazing. And the guy at Chelino's knows, like, I go in everyone on payday. He's like, oh, it's payday for
I
you.
love Chelino's.
Yeah, I
love
walk in there
Chelino's.
and he's like, is it payday again? I'm like, it's payday again, because he knows who I am. I'm like, I don't know if that's a good thing or not. Is that bad?
Well, the people at my liquor store know me, so I just kind of call it a wash. I'm like, you know who I am. That's upsetting, but it's fine. So you know what I like. They know my taste profiles.
So, like, he wants the extra brute strong.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, to go with my mimosas in the morning.
There you go. That's a great mix. You know, you're joking, but
No, I'm not joking at all. Someone told me that. I was
Yeah.
like, the brute champagne goes really good with the straw. I'm just.
That sounds good.
I work with a bunch of teachers, and so I'm just saying.
You all know how to get down.
Yes. So, but anyway, I'm glad you guys had me, and
Thank you for being here.
I hope
Absolutely.
I was honest and
No, you were great.
honest and fair. I did bring cupcakes, and I stink like middle schooler, and I apologize for that. And
You're
so,
good. It's all good.
What is middle schooler as a scent? Is it just Axe body spray?
no, it's like disgusting unwashed BO for a week with Axe body spray on top.
Because they
that
don't know.
sounds
They
more
don't
right.
know yet.
They don't,
They're
and
learning.
I always feel bad about it because I'm like, I'm so nice to them. I'm like, I think you're a great person.
But
and
it's time.
It's time.
It's begun.
It's not about you. It's not about you. It's about me. It's all about me. It's almost like a breakup conversation.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
have a stick of deodorant in the counseling office. You might go check it out.
See what you think.
See what you think about the, but no, I honestly cried. I cry every year when my kids leave because I'm like, oh, but I had this great group of kids this year, and they're just these fantastic kids, but I'm exhausted. I think from the walkout and teaching, I'm tired.
Yeah.
It's been a full year.
It's been a full year, and there
Last
was
day of school today.
in the walkout. You went to the walkout? I didn't see you down there.
No, I wasn't there. I was working, unfortunately.
Whatever.
I was.
I told you to come down there and hold a sign over my head. And I told Chandler Ogle, I said, when you become a millionaire, you have to buy your favorite teacher a new car.
I will definitely buy you a new car
I said
if
that.
I become a millionaire. we'll see what venture leads me there.
I said that when you were in class. I'm like, when you become a millionaire, you have to buy me a brand new car. I'm going to mark this down in the record right now.
I still think at 25, if for some reason I become a millionaire.
Buy her a
Verbal
car.
contract.
Are you just
Get her a car.
25?
Verbal contract. Yeah, 25.
He's
Man,
got time. He can get to millionaire.
I am old. Either I was just like a child when I got you.
I think you were a child. It was just
young.
children teaching children.
No, I make fun of myself. Yes, I'm 42 years old. My birthday's on Sunday.
Wow.
I know. I turned 42. So it's all that weightlifting.
Yeah, no, I want to. And also, what's that saying about blondes and redheads? Blondes age like milk, redheads age like fine wine. I think that's what I've heard. So yeah, redheads age better. So.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Well, I had a redhead girlfriend. She's told me that all the time. So she's like, "Stay with me."
And Millie's got red hair too.
Millie does have red
I'm
hair.
super pumped about that.
Yeah. We'll see if it stays red. I'm interested to see that.
Are you is this a live podcast or do you edit it?
Well, we definitely edit it. We can. We probably hit pause now because we did the exit earlier.
Are we done?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, someone tried to call me.
Yes. All right, something happens to me. Come get this guy. Well, this letter Trump wrote. You seem to know a little bit more about it than I did when we were talking about it. I'd only kind of glanced at it. Any points that jumped out at you that what you were talking about earlier?
Well, the way he talks about nuclear weapons particularly is really quite terrifying. He talks about how ours are massive and huge and so much bigger than theirs in the same way he did in his tweets earlier this year.
Yeah.
And it's just not the way you should be talking about nuclear weapons. I'm convinced he doesn't know what they are, because he talks about them so flippantly and nonchalantly.
I think that's more of a person growing up in a very extreme bubble. Trump has never seen anything close to a war zone, place that's been hit with bombs. I mean, I think that his flippantness there is a product of just the bubble that he's from. But yeah, no, I agree. It was that some of the lines in there just really.
He's talking like a fourth grader who's writing a passive aggressive breakup letter to his girlfriend who wouldn't kiss him when he wanted.
You know, that's actually fair criticism. And normally, I'll defend Trump on a lot more things than a lot of other people in the right will. But I don't know, the way that this was written, just not even just outside the letter itself, the events it's describing, like the way that we decided to not attend the summit. So many things. I mean, we were all holding our breath for something great to happen, and it's like, I don't know if they just were looking for a reason to pull out. I don't know if he was truly not prepared.
They were looking for a reason to pull out because common sense tells us that we shouldn't talk to North Korea. That wouldn't, based on how they've carried themselves in the past, no, we shouldn't talk to them. So when he said he was going to talk to them, that was terrifying. When he said he's not going to talk to them, it's terrifying because he will do whatever the last person who talked to him said.
Yeah, and I think a big part of that is, at least for the North Koreans and why they were so willing to do it, is one of their big goals is just for them to be seen as a major player on the world stage. And that's one of, like, the CIA released, there's a Pentagon request, they released their report on the defense and strategization of the North Korean forces and just kind of summarized it up and just a couple page report that was kind of just talked about the ideals of North Korea. And one of them was basically explaining how the only goal of the Kim dynasty is to retain power. That's the only thing they have. And being seen as an equal to someone like the United States or China, being treated like a big player in the media.
Being at the table.
They already accomplished what they came here to do. I mean, he's got the nuclear weapons already, so he can talk about shutting down stuff all he wants. If he's seen as a big player at the table, that's what they wanted out of this, right?
Well, I mean, it's that is what they want, but I think they wanted to have the meeting, but
I think that really they just want to be seen as someone who has power, just someone who's recognized on the world stage. Your thoughts?
No, I think that's true. But we want to make and it goes back to the Iran deal. We want to make a deal, what's the word I'm looking for? A consensus, not but the thing about consensus is that you don't get exactly what you want. Compromise, yeah. Like,
it's late. We did a long interview with Melanie. She was great.
She's very great. But you don't get everything you want, and no one's ever really happy in the end. But you hit on one thing that is your ultimate goal,
right?
And you make a bunch of tiny concessions that make you angry, so you can get that one thing. And we pretended, I guess, that we wanted to do that with North Korea, but I don't know.
I mean, like I
don't know what his goal is.
I'm a Trump apologist, but Trump was not the right person. He did not have the right equipment to show up to make that hard compromise that was going to disappoint a lot of people because, like you said, he will pander to the last person he talks to. He does that quite frequently. I am not as anti-Trump as a lot of people, but I would not be the one to trust Trump to go in there and make that hard decision for us.
You're more anti-Trump than you think. You're pandering to the right now. But,
I do lean right, but I mean, whether I'm pandering or not.
But like, do you think that someone like, Pence would have been the right person to talk to North Korea?
No, but I do think there are definitely prominent Republicans who would have been a lot better to talk to North Korea.
Right. Talk about Pence for a little bit, because you kind of had some jabs at him that you wanted to make.
Well, I mean, just the whole thing, the way that it was handled. I think Pence was in the news multiple times this week. One time for a hashtag on a tweet, and then another time for comparing North Korea to Libya, which kind of kicked off this whole thing. And it just surprised me that Pence would be the one to undo this all. I was certain that it would be another one of Trump's Twitter moments, and or who knows. But it was actually Pence tweeting, or not even tweeting. I think he said it in public. He compared North Korea's to Libya. That was the whole thing that kicked.
Well, was that
off.
Pence or was that the guy with the mustache? It was Pence. It was
John
Bolton.
John Bolton.
I thought John Bolton said the Libya model.
I'm not sure. Well, we'll have to Google it. Like we said,
but regardless, once that was said, everyone felt this huge rumble underneath, because that's the last thing North Korea wants to hear. I mean, the day I think before or the day after Kim took command was when we got Gaddafi. So that's how he came into power, was the Libya model, was during our Libya model moment. So he doesn't want to hear anything about Libya.
Right.
Well, so that had to have shaken him tremendously.
Oh, I'm sure it did. And we are now at a point where we're no better than we are before. We touched on Mimbo's comments about it earlier. Obviously, this affects a lot more people who live on the peninsula more than us. And we will be... Oh, producer's showing us something.
Yeah, no, it... Wait, show me that again? I'm sorry. Vice Prince, Pence's Libya remarks.
I thought that was
Pence was the one who made the remarks.
Okay.
So,
dude, it's so late. You had me thinking I was going crazy or something.
I had me thinking I was going crazy.
Was it Mustache Guy? And then I hear Mustache Guy, and I don't think of him. I think of Tom Selleck because he's always a mustache guy to me.
Tom Selleck, as far as I know, is not a member of the Trump administration.
2020 has not happened.
He might replace Pence.
Yeah, we got Scott Baio coming up, and we got we got to put Charles in charge, man. We got to try. We got to try. Well, off North Korea, we we're in a little bit long on our guest this week. She was fascinating to talk to. I do think that those primaries are going to be really important. What date did she say those were? Those were June, sometime in June, sometime midway through June. So we will.
Before we sign off for this episode, we want to mention just recently, while we were shooting this episode, there was a shooting at a Louis restaurant here in Oklahoma City, and not a lot of details have been released as of now. We believe that the only casualty, fatality rather, is the gunman himself, but several people have been injured. I believe 8 was the last that we heard.
I think most of them were hospitalized, too.
Most of them were hospitalized, so that's a developing story. So, just something to keep in mind that it can happen anywhere.
Yep. Be safe, everyone. Thoughts are going out to those families that were affected tonight. Signing off. We've got some big guests coming soon, and you can catch us on Spotify, SoundCloud, iTunes. We're on all that good.
We're legit now.
Yeah.